Ranger started growling before I even saw it, low steady the way he does when something's wrong, but he can't explain it. I stepped onto my back patio, and the lake looked smaller, like someone had taken a bite out of the shoreline overnight. Then I noticed the stink mud and dead weeds baking in the morning sun, and I realized this wasn't a drought. This was theft. I'm Ethan Walker, mid-50s retired civil engineer, the boring kind who used to measure water flow for a living and actually liked doing it. I moved into Maple Ridge because the brochure promised quiet living and private lake views, and I figured sure. Let the homeowners association keep the hedges trimmed and the mailboxes matching. That lake wasn't just pretty scenery either. It was the centerpiece of the neighborhood, the thing that kept property values high and mosquitoes low. The place kids fished with plastic bobbers and dads pretended they knew what they were doing. So when the water line dropped enough that the rocks along the south bank were showing rocks I hadn't seen since I moved in, I didn't panic. I measured. I grabbed an old tape measure, marked a spot on the retaining stones, and checked it again the next morning. And the next. The numbers didn't match normal evaporation, not even close, and I could feel that familiar cold little click in my head, the one that says, "This is man-made." Ranger pulled toward the south side like he knew where the problem lived. Down by the reeds, behind a line of ornamental shrubs, I saw it fresh dirt, scraped grass, and a shiny steel pipe jutting out of the bank like a bad secret. Water was moving through it fast, spilling into a drainage ditch that normally stayed dry. The welds were sloppy, the kind of rushed work you do when you don't want anyone asking questions. I crouched down, took photos, shot a quick video, and out of habit timed the flow with my phone like I was back on a job site. Standing there with mud on my shoes and Ranger whining beside me, I thought, okay, someone installed a drain. The only question is, who gave the order? I didn't storm over there screaming. I didn't post it online. I did what a person does when they still believe adults in charge will act like adults. I put everything in a folder, printed the photos, and walked it straight into the Homeowners Association office. The office was this little beige building with a fake stone sign out front and a lobby that smelled like carpet cleaner and cheap coffee. Behind the desk sat Lisa Grant, the community manager, wearing a perfect smile that never reached her eyes. "I need to speak to the board," I said, calm, polite the way you talk when you're trying not to become a headline. She glanced at my folder like it might contaminate her desk. "Do you have an appointment?" "I have evidence," I said. "That should count." Lisa did the tight smile again. "The board is in a meeting. You can leave it with me." "I'd rather hand it to them," I said. She exhaled like I was asking her to donate a kidney, then disappeared into the back. A minute later she returned and waved me down the hallway into their meeting room, where 3 people sat around a table like they were deciding the fate of the universe instead of arguing about lawn ornaments. And at the head of the table was Chad Mercer. Late 30s, crisp collared shirt, shiny watch, the kind of guy who says, "Just circle back," like it's a personality trait. He looked up at me, then down at my folder, and gave a short little laugh. "What's this?" Chad said, leaning back like he owned the air in the room. I set the folder on the table and opened it to the first photo. "It's a drain pipe," I said. "It wasn't there before. It's actively pulling water out of the lake." Chad glanced at the picture for half a second. So the lake level is dropping," I said, and tapped the page with my knuckle. "And it's dropping at a rate that doesn't match weather patterns. This is deliberate." One of the other board members, a guy who looked like he hadn't slept since 2012, shifted uncomfortably. Lisa stood near the door, arms folded like she was watching a customer complaint turn into entertainment. Chad smiled like I'd told him an adorable story. "Ethan," he said, "we're doing improvement projects. The community voted for better drainage. Everyone's tired of mosquitoes and muddy banks." "You don't fix mosquitoes by draining the lake," I said. "You create a health hazard, and you can't make changes to a shared natural asset without a vote and proper permits." Chad's smile sharpened. "We'll review it." "Review it today," I said, "because if that pipe stays, the lake's going to—" Chad held up a hand. "We'll review it," he repeated slow, like he was training a dog. I walked out of that room and felt something I didn't like, this ugly sense that I'd just handed a thief my security footage and asked him to please behave. Over the next week, the water kept dropping. The shoreline turned into a muddy slope. The reeds leaned over like they were tired. And the smell got worse. Not dramatic movie worse, but real-life worse, stagnant sour, the kind that clings to the back of your throat. Then the HOA newsletter hit everyone's inbox. Phase 1. Complete water optimization project, it said, with cheerful bullet points about mosquito reduction and shoreline improvements. I stared at that email in my kitchen, rereading it like maybe the words would change if I blinked hard enough. They didn't deny it, they just rebranded it. So I pulled out the community governing documents because if you've ever dealt with a homeowners association, you learn fast that feelings don't matter, paper does. There, it was plain as day. Any major alteration to common resources required homeowner notice, a public meeting, and a vote. Not a board decision, not a phase, a vote. I printed that section, highlighted it, and showed up at the next HOA meeting with the same folder. Bigger, now thicker, organized the way you bring something when you're tired of being brushed off. The meeting room was packed. People came because the lake smelled. People came because their kids couldn't play near it. People came because once a neighborhood starts to feel lied to, curiosity spreads faster than any rumor. Chad sat there calm as ever, tapping a pen like he wasn't worried at all. I waited my turn and then stood up. Chad, I said I want you to explain how the board approved draining the lake without a homeowner vote. Chad didn't even look annoyed. He looked amused. We're not draining it, he said. We're optimizing water levels. A few people murmured. Someone behind me said, it's definitely lower. I held up the highlighted document. This is the rule, I said. You don't get to rename a violation and pretend it's legal. Chad's expression cooled. Ethan, he said, you're being disruptive. I'm being factual. He leaned forward. If you continue, the board will document your behavior as a violation. That's when the room went quiet. Not because everyone agreed with him, but because everyone understood what that meant in HOA language. Threats, fines, lawyer letters, a slow grind designed to make people shut up. Sure enough, a few days later, I got a certified letter. Violation. Disrupting a board meeting. Fine, $250. Then another. Violation, improper storage of waste container. My trash can was exactly where it had always been. Then another. Violation, unauthorized exterior modification. They were talking about the same solar lights I'd had since I moved in. It wasn't one big punch. It was 100 little ones spaced out, timed perfectly to keep me tired. And I'll be honest, there was a night I sat in my car in the driveway, engine off, just holding those letters like they weighed 50 pounds. Not because I thought I was wrong. I didn't. I knew what I saw, I knew what I measured. But I started doing the math in my head. Fees, fines, lawyer costs, the time I was burning. I pictured them dragging this out for months, hoping I'd run out of steam. And for the first time I thought maybe I should stop. Not because they're right, but because they're relentless. That thought didn't feel noble. It felt practical. It felt like survival. Then my phone rang. Megan Shaw, one of my neighbors on the other side of the lake, spoke before I could even say hello. Chad came to my house, she said. I sat up straighter. Why? He told me you're unstable, she said, and I heard the disgust in her voice. He said you're trying to stir up panic. I let out this short laugh that wasn't funny. Of course he did. Megan didn't laugh back. I don't believe him, she said, and I filed a complaint with the county water authority. I used your photos. I stared at my windshield, blinking. You did what? I'm not letting them ruin the lake, she said. My kids have been here every summer since they were toddlers. I'm done being polite. That call changed everything. Not because Megan was some dramatic hero, but because she did what communities are supposed to do, she acted. The next day, 2 more neighbors emailed me saying they'd noticed contractors near the South Bank weeks ago. Another said he had a doorbell camera that caught a work truck with the landscaping company logo pulling up at dawn. Suddenly, this wasn't my fight. It was a pattern. So I stopped walking into meetings like a guy asking for fairness. I started moving like a guy building a case. I put together a 1-page summary, photos, measurements, the governing document clause, and a simple request. Demand, a public explanation demand, records demand, the project permits. No insults, no ranting, just facts. The kind of facts that don't care how confident Chad looks in a collared shirt. People signed. A lot of them. The lake kept dropping. The smell turned from unpleasant to undeniable, and then the fish started appearing, floating near the edge like little silver warnings. Chad sent another email. Due to seasonal factors, water levels may fluctuate. The board is monitoring the situation. Seasonal factors. like a brand new pipe draining water into a ditch. 2 mornings later, I heard tires on gravel near the lake. I walked outside and saw a county vehicle parked by the south bank. A woman in a utility vest stepped out, clipped a badge to her pocket, and started taking photos, not of the scenery but of the pipe. Her name was Rachel Turner. She didn't smile much. She looked at the pipe, looked at the ditch, and then looked at me. "You the one who filed the measurements?" she asked. "I'm one of them," I said. Rachel nodded once, like she'd already seen enough to form an opinion. "Okay," she said. "We'll handle the rest." Word spread fast. By afternoon, Chad had called an emergency meeting. That night, the meeting room was overflowing. People stood along the walls. Some sat on the floor. The air was thick, not with anger exactly, but with that sharp feeling you get when a group realizes it's been played. Chad stood at the front with a projector like he was about to sell us a timeshare. He clicked through slides about rainfall and evaporation and community enhancements. He talked fast, smiling, using big words like mitigation and optimization like vocabulary could replace accountability. And then I raised my hand. Chad sighed like I was ruining his TED Talk. "Yes, Ethan." I stood up and kept my voice even. "Those slides are about weather," I said. "Show us the permits. Show us the vote. Show us the contractor work order." Chad's jaw tightened. "That information is being compiled." "It's either there or it's not," I said. "And if it's not, then you did this without authority." Someone yelled, "Answer him." Megan stood up. "Stop calling it optimization," she snapped. "You drained our lake." Chad tried to smile again, but it didn't land this time. "Let's keep this civil," he said, and that's when Rachel Turner walked in and stood against the wall, arms folded, watching. You could feel it. Chad noticed her, and for the first time his confidence slipped. Just a little. A board member beside him leaned in and whispered something. Chad clicked to another slide, then another, but his hands were slightly shaky now, and everyone could see it. Rachel didn't interrupt. She didn't need to. She just stood there like gravity. The meeting ended with no satisfying speech, no apologies, no dramatic confession. Just a room full of residents leaving with the same thought: this wasn't over, but the power had shifted. The next morning, a notice appeared on the HOA office door. County compliance violation. Unauthorized alteration of water resources. Cease and remediate. People stopped in the parking lot to read it like it was the best thing they'd seen all year. By the next board session, Chad wasn't sitting at the head of the table anymore. One of the quieter board members, pale sweating, cleared his throat and read a statement with trembling hands. "Effective immediately," he said, "Chad Mercer has resigned as president. The board will cooperate with county authorities and schedule a special election." Chad stood near the back, face stiff, eyes fixed on some invisible point beyond the room. No speech, no handshakes, no last-minute spin. Just a man realizing that the same tactics he used to push people around don't work on facts, or on an entire neighborhood that finally stopped being afraid of paperwork. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. I just breathed slow, steady, and watched him walk out, because the only thing better than a bully's confidence is the moment it runs out. Lesson learned. The fastest way to beat an HOA power trip is to bring receipts and never fight alone.